Hey everyone, welcome back to Sit Fearlessly. Woo woo! So excited to be back. Woo, child. We have been working. Okay, so I am very grateful to have the time and the capacity and just the availability to be able to sit here with Coach T today, because I know we have been trying to plan this and schedule this for a minute now. So I'm very excited to really unpack and get into this conversation. But I also want to say I think Mother's Day just passed, so happy Mother's Day to all of the beautiful moms. Time is flying by so fast, so I want to make sure that I catch up on everything. Also, we had Bronx Week, so shout out to everyone who was celebrated during Bronx Week. I think Remy Ma was out yesterday performing, just really, really dope. Shout out to the Bronx Borough President. They put an incredible gala together that happened over the weekend as well. So shout out to everybody that's in support of the Bronx. I know you're not from the Bronx, but I got to rep the Bronx.
Who's from?
You from the Bronx?
I'm definitely from the Bronx.
Yeah,
what?
let's go.
Oh, what? Yeah. I'll be all
go.
over. See, my thing was I lived in Staten Island for a long time. You know what I mean? Since I came back from school.
That's where I thought you were from.
Yeah, because I was out there for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
But I'm from the Bronx, East Tremont. Right off that's why we over here. I'm like, oh, this is right here.
Yeah, you're from familiar territory.
Of course, yo. Third Ave, I used to always be shopping. So.
But I love it because I love everything that everyone has been pouring into the Bronx. I've definitely been myself very passionate about bringing the Bronx into a lot of the things. That's why we're here at BronxNet too. Shout out to BronxNet. So I think it's really powerful what we're doing, because for a very, very, very long time, the narrative of the Bronx was always very bad. And it's like, nah, this is the beautiful things that we're doing here.
Yes.
The beautiful people we got here that are from here, that don't live here anymore, but they're still from here. We grew up here. It's amazing. And the summer is going to turn up. So I cannot wait. So shout out to the Bronx.
Yeah, shout out to the Bronx. One time for everybody that's from the Bronx. Let's go.
Let's go, BX. All right. So before we dive in, I want you to kind of tell everybody who you are and what you do, and then we'll go in.
Yeah, so for sure. So one, again, thank you for inviting me here. I've been loving some of the other interviews and some of the other things too that you've been doing with this. So again, my name is Terrell Jones. I've been really doing business for probably the last 16 years. Specifically, I've been doing business coaching and consulting for the last 11 years. And then also within that time, I also started a quality client acquisition agency. So what is that really? I learned throughout my years of trying to figure out business, like some of us, if you starting or if you already established, that is, you got to get more of the right types of people. So it's like getting more people to really understand and see your products and services, but get more of the right types of people. So my first 5 years, I started around 2015. My first 5 years, I was basically working my full-time job. And while I'm working, I'm doing cybersecurity. I'm doing this. It's a pretty decent job. But this is out in I did some in Virginia, and then I was working out in Jersey. So cool. I'm doing that, but I'm still building the business on the side. Like a lot of us trying to make things happen. And I was doing okay, but it really wasn't enough for me to go full time. Yeah. So kept working it. Around 2020, I ended up getting let go from my previous position. Long story short, me and a manager was at odds. A new guy came in, micromanaging. It was a crazy situation, but I made a decision in that moment. We might talk more about this because I think it's a lot of people that's in a transition moment right now, because we was talking about a lot of things happening in the world and et cetera, et cetera. So it's important that you draw a line in the sand and say, look, I'm gonna really go all in. If I'm serious about my business, I'm serious about what my vision is, I have to go all in. Yeah. So that's where I was at in 2020, and I decided to be able to do that. 10 months later, I ended up getting let go. My former wife at the time, she was pregnant with our son, and so it was a lot of things, a lot of pressure, a lot of things happening. But I said, let me really go all in. I decided to do that. 10 months later, they did let me go from the job. But at that point, I was already matching what I was doing in my six-figure corporate career. Right. So I was able to, be full-time ever since. So, and it was a lot of it has to do with understanding what was important to pay attention to, and really drawing a line in the sand and saying, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go all in. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So really, real quick, one last thing. Since then, been able to help over 500 plus coaches, experts, and professionals start and scale a business online. So that's a lot of what I do now is I do the business coaching and consulting. And then also we have a quality client acquisition agency where we focus on doing actually done for you work to get folks more quality clients.
I love that. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go. Okay. And you touched on two things, right? So your pivot happened during 2020, which a lot of us had to pivot, right? We didn't have a choice. Some of us, we got stuck, you know, and we didn't know how to pivot. We didn't take advantage of the time. So I'm glad that you did, and you found your niche and you found your pivot, right? But then also fast forward to now, 2026, I feel like we are in another pivotal moment. I feel like so many people are losing their jobs right now across all industries, okay? Inflation is crazy. People are trying to figure out what to do to make money. Businesses aren't thriving as they used to. It's so much going on right now. So like the pivot is real again.
Right. Yes, right, exactly. And that's why I say,
Again.
that's why I say it's like, this is one of those times where you really have to say, yo, am I really gonna go all in on this? Or you know what, I see the writing on the wall based on my job or my situation right now, and I don't know how long I'm gonna be in this situation. I don't know how long this is gonna last, but what I really want to do, let me go all in on it.
So let me ask you about that. What is all in? Talk to me about what it takes to be all in.
Good. I mean, you know what's so funny? I was thinking about this the other day. There's a difference between commitment and consistency. What's interesting is since I started, I was committed, but I wasn't necessarily consistent. And a lot of people always put those two things together, like commitment and consistency. But no, you could be committed. You could say, I really want to do something. I do want to show up for it. Like, and you know, you could have the energy. That's how you know if you have certain ideas that you keep going back to year after year or month after month, or maybe you do a little bit, but then you stop and you chill, and you know, you do a lot of things. You know, so throughout the years, especially my early years, I could say I was committed. I wasn't gonna say that I was gonna quit. You know, I realized that I love business, and I got that spark during college because I was doing a multi-level marketing company. Shout out to Prepaid Legal.
Okay.
I was doing Legal Shield, right, at the time, and so I kind of, you know, started understanding a little bit about business since then. That's when I started saying, okay, let me really, like, during those first few years, let me really start paying attention to some of these mentors that I'm listening to. So really started listening heavily to E.T. the hip hop preacher. Shout out to Dr. Eric Thomas. You know him on a first name basis now. That's pretty dope. Got a chance to really start looking at I got Evan Carmichael. He's one of the top business you know, YouTube business people, and behind the scenes he work with a lot of other folks. I know him on a first name basis. That's dope. He's been my mentor for a long time. You know, been, of course, Tony Robbins, one of the GOATs, you know, of our the originalities of our industry, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so I started really listening to a lot of folks, and I said, I gotta figure out how to be more consistent. So when I say all in means that year that I went from, like, definitely not being able to make enough money to support myself to being able to transition and be full-time out of my job. That year was a pivotal year. So some of the things that I did was really important. Number one, every moment that I could put towards my business, I did. So think about, you know, I was talking to, we ended up having a new member that came through. You worked with us recently, and I said, she was like, how am I gonna be able to, like, do both? And I said, you really gotta schedule the time, but you gotta really, you really know if you're serious about the time that you have, or if you basically playing around with it. So anyway, I said, look, for me, this is what I did. I said, in the morning, I'll wake up an hour earlier. Let me make sure I do that. I had a 1 hour lunch break. So during that year, I said, you know what? I'm gonna take my last 10 minutes and eat, and my first 50 minutes, I'm gonna be making the calls if I gotta schedule an appointment with somebody. So I would do that day after day. And then when I got home, it was now I'm not really gonna watch full NBA games because it's taking a lot of time, or full football games. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll watch the NBA finals. I'm like, okay, you know, I'll watch the Super Bowl. I'll watch, like, if it's big matches or Floyd is fighting or something like that, I'll watch those. Because I said, for me, that's all time that I can get back. I could put that towards learning, towards researching, towards figuring something out, towards having a conversation with somebody, towards being in a program, towards practicing my sales ability, right? So that's what I mean when I say all in, is like, show me where you put your time, show me where you put your money, and I'll show you what's important to you.
Absolutely, because we look at all of these millionaires and all of these billionaires, right? And we're like, how did they do it? You know, we all have the same amount of time. It's literally how much time you're putting towards what you're doing. And also figuring out, like, is this really your passion? Because I think that also has something to do with it, right? So we're talking about 9 to 5, going from 9 to 5 to then being an entrepreneur. When you're at your 9 to 5, you're following the rules that they're giving you, right? And working based on that outline where your responsibilities are, you get your paycheck and that's it. But when you have a business, it's really your business. You have to do it all, especially in the beginning, right? But really, really lock in. And if you don't really love what you're doing, it's not going to happen.
That's it.
Right?
You're right about that, because
Yeah.
it's like, because there's going to be times, there's definitely going to be times where you're going to feel very frustrated.
Yes.
There's definitely going to be times where you don't know what to do. And if you don't really have the love for it, that's why I also mentioned the commitment part of it, because the commitment is like, yo, all right, I'm very frustrated, but I'm not going to throw in a towel and just give up everything.
Right.
But you know, okay, there's certain things that I need to do in order to be consistent. So that first part was really like, okay, you got to make space in your life to do that, right?
Yeah.
You got to make, sure that the people in your life, you talk to your kids and say, look,
Yep.
mommy or daddy's gonna be working from this amount of time. You know, I see you smiling, right? Look, this is here. You might have to lock the door, put a sign on the door, whatever you gotta do to make sure you're making the time for that. And then now, okay, you have the time. And the second part of it is you have to be following the right strategy.
Yes.
For whatever you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Because there's, you know, you could be running. I think I remember Tony Robbins saying this. He was like, yo, you could be running, basically you could be a motivated idiot, basically. It's like you could be running in the wrong direction. And yeah, I'm putting in time, I'm putting in work, but you running in the wrong direction. You're not following the right strategy. So another big piece of it was following that. And that's where I didn't really have the name for it at the time. But I started following what I call the predictability loop.
Okay.
And essentially what that really is being able to grow your business, but in a way that you know that you're getting the right people, so you're not just doing a bunch of random activities. So one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had during that time was I said, okay, I'm putting out the posts, right? I used to have what we call post and pray syndrome. I'll post and pray, I get clients, I pray, people come, right? Or
post and pray.
Right, post and pray syndrome, right, exactly. I was like, and it wasn't working, because it was like, yo, I'm putting out all of this content, but nothing is shaking. You know, I used to just think, yo, the views and the followers and all of that was like what's gonna help me grow this business.
Yeah.
Now I have conversations with people with 500,000 followers. They come to me like, yo, how do I make money in the business and get clients, right? So it's really about the strategy. So for me, I said, okay.
And your framework, I would say too. I think a lot of businesses also fail sometimes because they didn't build it correctly from the ground up first.
Yeah.
So the infrastructure is breaking.
Yes.
It's falling apart.
Yes.
And they're like, but why? What am I doing? I'm still getting these clients. I'm still this. But no, your infrastructure was not built the right way from the beginning.
So then you wonder why, okay, then why am I not getting the right people? Or why is it not consistent? Or why I'm only getting 1 or 2 people a month? Or why this, these different things. So for me, I realized that there was 2 things important. So I'm actually going to show one of my visuals right here. So the first thing that I realized was I said I got to get flow. So this is important, flow, right? So basically, flow it stands for lead flow. Okay. Lead flow. So one of the first things I said, oh, you know what? My consistency isn't there because I don't have a system that's constantly bringing it to me, because I rock with networking events. I know we was talking about it earlier. I do that. To me, that's the cherry on top. I like to do that, and whatever business comes from that, it comes from that. You know, if it's content, if it comes from that, it comes from that. If it's word of mouth or referrals, if it comes from that, it comes from that. But for me, I said I need something consistent, whether I'm sleeping, whether I'm with my kid, whether I'm whatever. So that's when I said, okay, let me work with a advertising agency. And at the time, I'm like, I don't know how to like really do these ads for real. I kind of been researching it. So I had somebody do it for me, and I started getting people who were interested. I'm like, great, like I got people every day who wants to talk to me. I'm like, yes. Yeah. And so that was cool. And but I realized something from that too. I said, well, I'm getting people consistently, but some of these are not, like, they just not ready, or they not taking it serious. I think we've all had that, especially if you've been in business for any number of years. You know, you run into people that's just like, they just not quite there, or they not quite serious about it. I remember this one advertising campaign I ran. I said, are you broke, busted, and disgusted? Do you not have 2 pennies to rub to your name? Is there too much month at the end of the money? And I'm getting people that are like, yo, they sign up because they want to be able to grow, you know, their coaching business. Yeah. So they coming in, whatever. I'm like, oh yes, we up. This is lovely. I love this. And but then I started getting on a call with folks, and I started hearing, man, you know, Terrell, I just don't have 2 pennies to rub to my name. You know, it's just too much month at the end of the money. I'm like, why does this sound so familiar? And I realized that, oh, my messaging and like literally what I'm putting out is literally attracting those people.
Right.
So I had to understand this second piece of it,
Yes.
which is called fit. Right? So I had to make sure that it's not just about getting 100 homeless people and talking to them on the call. It's about actually making sure they're the right fit.
Right.
So there's a whole process, you know, when you talk about advertising, when you talk about conversion, when you talk about delivery, when you talk about that, because you have to look at all of those phases in your business.
Right.
When you look at all of those, and you say, all right, every single phase, there's a way for me to be able to identify and or filter the right people to where they can be introduced into my services.
Right.
So once I really, that was like one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had, that I said, okay, I made the space and time, I'm serious, I'm finding myself being more consistent now, but let me make sure I find out the right strategy and start
Right.
executing on that. So once I came across this was the missing puzzle piece for me.
I love that. I love that so much. And kudos to you for like literally figuring out this excellent strategy. Also, like I want to talk to the people who aren't ready, right? Like I think sometimes a lot of the issues are like right now there's an influx of information. So there's a gazillion coaches, there's a gazillion trainings, there's sign up for this, sign up for that. I think that we also need to sit down, number one, look at our budget, right? Because we need to invest in ourselves. If we're not doing professional development as business owners, we are failing, right? So invest in yourself. How much money do you have for that, right? Create a budget for yourself. And then after that, out of all the things you put on your list that you want to work on, put it in chronological order. Start with one so you don't feel overwhelmed, because I think that that's what's happening, Coach T. I think they're signing up to you, they're signing up to the other coach, all different areas that they want to improve in. And then when the time comes, it's like, oh, now I spoke to you about this. We had our preliminary call. Are you committed? Now they're like,
Right, it's too much.
I'm trying to commit to so many different things at the same time. So I think that's also a part of strategy for the people who are looking for coaching. I think that's part of it too. But let's dive into some of these things right here. So you were just talking about you help coaches get real clients, not just more calls. So what is the biggest lie people are sold about growing a business right now, in your opinion?
Oh, good question. The biggest lie that people are sold really is that it's all about the number of followers and views. Like I really think that's because a lot of people, and I hear it because I talk to thousands of people every year, right? You know, many coaches, professional services too, different things. What I realize is that they think, oh, if I'm not getting X amount of views or X amount of followers or X amount of likes, that they feel like they can't grow their business.
Right.
You have to realize that, number one, there's a difference between education and entertainment. One, because a lot of people will look at, yo, all of these people, they getting these views, these likes. First of all, you got to realize entertainment is always going to get more engagement than education.
Right.
Period. There's way more people that want to laugh, that want to be entertained, and the goal of entertainment is literally to have you keep watching, right? The goal of education is to get you to do something different. Is to actually get you to take action and move forward. So that's automatically going to be separated right there. So you got to realize that it's not just about that. That's why we keep talking about the strategy behind it, because it's like, okay, the strategy is going to be like based on the resources I have available to me, right? It could be based on who you are. If you might have a natural, ability to speak, or you might have capital investments you could do, or maybe you might be good on camera. Like you might have certain skills, and based on the skills and the resources you have, start there. Like start your strategy right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's really the biggest thing. Is like I tell people that's gonna come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so for me.
But you mentioned ads. You mentioned connecting with an ad agency.
Yeah.
And this brings me back to the budgeting again as business owners. I think that that's also important. I think if we're putting out a budget, if we can, to invest on advertisement too, I think that has also helped a lot of these people who have a large following get that following as well, right? Because we need coaching in these areas that we don't know what to do. It's new to us, it's foreign to us, right? So if we're investing in an ad agency, they'll teach us the ropes and how to attract the right clients like you are, right? So invest in Coach T basically is what I'm telling you guys, right?
There you go, I love
that. Invest, in a good ad agency. So I think that, these are the type of things that people need to start putting on their list and start looking into and create a budget for, because we're spending money on things that we don't need. Okay, let's keep it real, guys. Come on. every money that's coming out of our business, it's not monies that's going into expenses and things that we must take care of. It's also wants. Right? I talk to my kids in school about needs and wants. It's also going to wants. And like you said, you from a time perspective, you cut down on watching sports, doing this so you can lock in. On a financial perspective, you need to do the same thing.
Same thing.
Cut down on certain things for a certain period of time so that you can have a budget to be able to accomplish some of these things, right? So I feel like don't get discouraged if you don't have that following, guys.
By the way, I mean, just on that, like, I stopped drinking for like 4 years because part of it was I looked at my budget. I'm like, yo, I'm spending, and I wasn't even buying like low. I'm like Henny, I'm buying this. I was spending like cash every weekend, you know, and then that leads to you want to go out, and then that leads to you want to do lounges, and then that leads to buying food, and then that leads to so I'm spending these hundreds and hundreds of dollars every single month, where it's just like, if I just stop certain things and just put that money towards this, I would have an ad budget. Now, you know what I mean? And even when you working, like I said, we have I don't call it an ads agency. It's really like a quality client acquisition agency, and I call it that more because it's not just like social media by itself. There's a whole strategy on the back end. We do funnels for folks who know that terminology, things of that nature, right? So we do a bunch of different things for our folks. But it's really like when I started, it was, and I started working with the agency. For me, it was, okay, let's see where it goes. I wanted to make sure I had the ROI. You don't know if you don't have an ROI if you're not tracking it.
Exactly,
right?
Which is return on investment, guys.
Right, there we go. So I had to be able to look at some of those things and then be disciplined once I started getting the money and not just saying, I'm going to go, splurge it at the bar, which I remember this one time I did that. I was like, first time I got some money back, you first make your money online, it's like the biggest deal in the world. I remember I first, I was making a couple $100, and I said, I'm like, oh wow, I'm like, yo, I could actually make money online. People that don't know me, like this is like the coolest thing. I'm like, everybody at the bar get shots. I bought everybody at the bar shots. I was turning up. I'm like, oh, hold on, that might not be the best use of my money. But you learn though. You learn these things.
Listen, the moment you step outside is money. The moment you step outside is like ching, 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 every step you take.
See, a lot of memes like that, right?
I like staying at home, for those reasons. But so I guess we talked a little bit about what six-figure entrepreneurs need to break, right? That's basically what we were talking about right now. You know what I want to talk about real quick with you? Sales. Because that's a huge component, and especially of the coaching industry. Yes. I commend everyone that's in the sales industry because it is not easy. So let's talk about how to shift your mindset into that sales mentality.
Oh, this is so good. This is so good. All right, so one of the first breakthroughs I had on this, I used to, I think Ty Lopez is in a little bit of hot water right now, but I signed up for one of his programs, and I remember he was talking about how one of his mentors was saying, if you're scared of the phone, you'll always be broke. And I said, damn, I don't want to be broke. I said, I got to figure this out. I said, no. I said, okay. I had to switch my mindset on this. And so for me, what I really started to realize is that it is, a lot of people like to say I have imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of that comes from that because they're like, do I really have value to give other people, right? And you think, you feel like, oh, am I a fraud? Like people gonna find out like I'm not really who I say I am, and I can't really give the value that I'm saying that I could give. And the real thing about that is, one, always tell the truth and give the value that you really can give. Like, don't embellish. A lot of people want to embellish, and then when people inquire or they do talk to somebody, then they feel some type of way about that. So I think a lot of it comes down to confidence, but confidence is going to come down to actually helping people with what you can help people with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm confident in advertising and marketing and sales and, online content, public speaking. There's a lot of things I'm confident at, but if you told me to be a surfboard instructor, I can't teach you surfing. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be confident. So confidence is domain specific. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to, it's not a general blanket. Confidence is like, what areas are you confident in? You know what I mean? And the areas you're going to be the most confident in are typically going to be the areas that you got the most experience, expertise, and education in.
Right.
Right? So if you put in work in those areas, have some confidence that you've been through it, or you've been through that experience. And if you want to teach and train people or monetize that, teach and train them from what you learned and based on your experience. So that's really the first thing, is to get the confidence to say, I actually have value to give.
Right.
After you have the value to give, at that point, you just got to get better at the skill set
Yeah.
of sales. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I invested in a sales program. And this was, so for me, one of the valuable things that I did, and this was like, you know what I mean? Like, I spent a lot of money. Like, I spent like 5 figures, but I'm not afraid to do that because I'm like, me investing in these skills, as long as I'm gonna be in business, and I really enjoy business, and I enjoy the process of learning,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't know everything, please. Like, I'm learning like a lot of other people too, but my thing is this, I'm not afraid to invest in myself because I know I am the best investment I can make.
Right.
So I'm like, yo, if I'm learning something, I'm never gonna lose. They can take everything else from me. You cannot take my education.
Exactly.
You cannot take my experience.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you could take me out of this business and put me in another one, and I can
Yeah.
still win. So anyway, with that, I said, okay. So from a sales perspective, I hired this company, and I was on a call every single week with a sales coach. And
Okay.
every single week he would say,
Okay.
Terrell, I need you to record your calls. And he would say it like this, objections like that, ask these questions,
Yeah.
use this tone. He was like, so hold on, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Hold on, do it like this.
Yeah.
But I was very grateful for that because I got that one-on-one attention that I needed.
Exactly.
And I had to, and I think this is what a lot of people are missing too, is just that they get part of programs and they just get thrown courses or videos at them, or they don't really get the attention
Yeah.
from the person that owns the program. So they
Yes.
still struggle, and then they feel jaded about what they just joined.
I agree with that.
You know what
I
I'm
think there
saying?
needs to be more face value from the actual coaches that are starting these companies.
Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
really quick, I know you're heavy on social media. Outside of social media, what is another strategy people can use in sales to find clients?
Yeah, for sure. So I like going out to events, like especially like if it's networking events, but we're talking a little bit too. It has to be like the right type
Yeah.
of events to go to. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
but
Do your research, guys.
do your
Yes.
do your research. Do your research. Yeah. So. But yeah, I mean, I like going to different events. You know, I mean, you know, we in New York City. You know what I'm saying? So I go to events outside of New York too. But you know, in New York, there's a lot going on. So I get a chance to go and I pick and choose certain events. You know, as my influence, you know, both of all, because we have a similar network. You know, as our influence continues to grow, you know, your network continues to grow. So
Yeah.
you start to know people who are more influential. You know, who got more things going on. So for me, kind of like one of the strategies I'll use, if it's somebody that I know and they're hosting something, if I can make it and go, I'll go because I'm already gonna know I got people I'm connected
Exactly,
to. And a
yeah.
lot of times, you know, I mean, I build, you know, I don't burn bridges. Like I
Yeah.
have good relationships. So a lot of time, if I'm in a room with somebody and they know me, they'll say good things about me. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
like shout out to my guy SOCOL.
Hey,
shout out to them.
SO.
Yeah. And I just been talking a lot about them lately because they got what they call a business network. So I
Yeah.
ended up going to theirs, and my guy SO was just like telling everybody like, yo.
Yeah.
Terrell got us a 10x return on our investment with the ads. You need to go
Yes.
holler at him. Like, you go holler at him, go holler at him, right? And
Yeah.
and I really appreciated that because, you know, a lot of times either people try to keep you to themselves or they don't want to tell nobody, or, you know, it's just like
Yeah.
for some other reason. So for me, it's like being able to give value to the people that are in the room.
Yeah.
And when you meet people, you build relationships
Yeah.
faster.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but we have run out of time. I need you here back for a part 2
Oh, yeah, I'm
because
with it.
this was incredible. Yes. So thank you so much, Coach T. Let everyone know where they can follow you.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we can
So,
wrap up.
and I'll give a little gift for them too. So y'all can follow me
quick, yeah.
at IAM Terrell Jones. IAM Terrell Jones. I'm mostly heavily on Instagram, so you can find me there, Instagram. But all my social media channels is that.
Yes.
And I have a free masterclass. You click the link in my bio, and it'll walk you through. If you like these concepts,
Okay.
if you like these concepts that we talked about today, like with Fit and Flow, I literally did a whole free masterclass. You don't have to sign up for it. It's completely free. And just go watch it and learn. You know what I mean? And
Awesome.
find out more about these concepts.
I
So,
love it so much. Thank you
you.
guys for watching Sit Fearlessly, and we'll be back. We'll definitely bring in Coach T back. Yes.